Welcome back to Average Home Theater. I am Nelson, and I am joined once again by somebody who I haven't seen in quite a while because he thinks he's better than me, and that would be Dominic. How's it going, man?
Hey, that sounds just like me. How you
I
doing?
know, man, you selfish person. No.
No, it's good to be home.
Yeah, yeah, enjoying your Christmas vacation?
Yeah, you know how it is messing with the kids and trying to do different activities and stuff, but yeah, it's good to be home and it's back to be back at the average home theater, even
Yeah,
if it's
man.
remote.
I um I kind of have like a teacher's vacation thing going on. After, let's see, work on the Friday before Christmas, and I've been off, and then I am not going back to work until the 2nd. So it's like 10 or 11 days,
Nice.
something like that. I haven't had that much time off around Christmas. It's been like 7 or 8 years. It's been a while.
Dang, that's a good time to have a reset because
Mhm.
typically in whatever industry you're in, business is somewhat slower
Yeah,
usually.
it's just the way
Yeah.
the holidays fell, and
Hmm.
the boss decided to, like, give us our time. So she was really giving us like a day and a half free vacation.
Nice.
But she kind the way she moved because we get Christmas Eve and Christmas Day as a holiday, and New
Uh-huh.
Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So that's 4 days. So, just the way it fell, we're able to
Yeah.
get some time off. So it's nice. But it goes so fast. I mean, I'm sitting here like, man, it's already Thursday night, you
I
know?
know.
It's
That's
just
true.
nuts.
But back in the day, I had a retail background, so I appreciate any time off because you know how in that industry you have to fight for a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's
So
balls to the wall at this time of year.
that too. Yeah, that industry is the opposite. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, well, so we're going to talk about Rebel Moon, all right?
Hmm.
But before we start talking about the actual movie, I didn't hear about this until Seth mentioned it at one of our we call them Grove meetings, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Saying something like it's going to be the next Star Wars and all of this stuff.
Right.
So as time goes on, you hear, and let's get the elephant in the room addressed. Oh, it was a Star Wars script that was rejected and whatever. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Were you able to confirm if that was true or not?
Well, Zack Snyder did say that he had a pitch, and then that pitch evolved into this.
Okay.
So I kind of like it's almost like the story behind the story's even cooler than the actual whole movie because that is kind of cool that he pitched him and he's like, okay, fine, I'll go do my own thing and just call it something else.
Right.
And there's a lot of similarities in there.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell, like, it would be easy to convince someone that that's really what this was. It was
Right.
a Star Wars script that got rejected, so he said, "Okay, screw it. I'll just I don't know, hey, Netflix, are y'all interested?" And
Yeah.
and they took it.
Yeah, I knew there was somewhat of a pitch, and then he kind of calls this like his Star Wars.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, well, it's not Star Wars. Um, Even though I'm very critical of Star Wars because I
mhm.
expect a lot out of it because I love the franchise, or I used to, pre-Disney. I just This is it's no match. Now, before, like I said, we get too involved in it, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Um, I because I'm not big. Look, here's the thing with Zack Snyder. His stuff is either like really good or really bad. Justice League is god awful, okay? And I know how you feel about it, but it's terrible, okay? It was yeah, and the Snyder Cut is the only one I watched. I didn't even watch the other one that was supposedly the bad one. So I'm sitting here
Right.
thinking, if the Snyder Cut's the good one, how bad was this other crap? Okay. But then 300 was also when it came out. It didn't
Hmm.
really age very well, but it's still a good movie. And Dawn of the Dead is good. I'm a horror movie junkie, and he really did a good job with that movie. But then he did his Batman stuff, and Superman, Batman v Superman, and what was it, Man of Steel. Man of Steel's
Hmm.
okay. could have used some editing. Um, and Batman v Superman was enjoyable. But that's about it. I don't understand all of this Zack Snyder stuff. Like he's this just great visionary. I don't know. I just don't think he's that good. He has a certain style. Um, and maybe I'm just kind of over it. I don't know. I don't know what you think.
So yes, you know, I admire his passion because if you see him in interviews, if you see him talking, I mean, he is excited. He's energetic. Like, if you watch any of his commentaries or anything, he's like, it's infectious how excited he is about his stuff. So I appreciate that about him. Um, you know, I don't think he's the best thing ever brought down to earth. I don't think that. Nolan is a far better director. I would say I'd give you a fight on Nolan, like he's up there, up there. But I also don't hate Zack Snyder. Um, Unapologetically, I'm a huge fan of Man of Steel. I think that movie's very underrated.
Hmm.
Um, BVS, it's all right. I do like Justice League, and I really like Watchmen. I feel like Watchmen's underrated. I think it was a little bit ahead of its time.
You know what? I forget that he did Watchmen. Watchmen
Yeah,
is very good. I
yeah,
completely forgot that he did that.
yeah.
So yeah.
Watchmen's very good, and then yeah, 300 was cool as well. But yeah, you know, it's obvious. He always kind of has like a dark, gloomy tone to his films, and then he
Mhm.
has the slow-mo stuff.
Oh my god.
Um, so that and it's like I can see how that would bother somebody, but going into it, I know he's gonna have it. And as long as the story is really well done, that it doesn't bother me too much. But I could see how it would.
Mhm.
So with Snyder, I like him, but I'm kind of in the middle on him. I really
Yeah.
like Man of Steel and Watchmen. So
Yeah. Okay, well, with that, I guess we'll talk about the movie a little bit.
okay.
So, I get Sophia Boutella. I like her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she hasn't been in a ton of stuff that I've watched, but I watched her and I really liked her in the Kingsman movie, the first one. Kingsman: The Secret Service or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She was awesome in that. She had like these legs things. You know how they have that those track guys that are amputees and have those legs that are metal and kind of round.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
They're almost like a spring kind of.
Yeah. Well, her
Yeah.
legs were kind of like that in the Kingsman movie, except they were like razor sharp and she like cut people's heads off and stuff. So that was the first time I ever saw her.
Right.
Um, and I didn't see The Mummy, so really, I guess this is only the second thing I've ever watched with her, but I think she's pretty good. I think she did well in this. Um, the best part is her physicality.
Oh yeah.
She's very believable in her. I mean, I guess you can call it stunt work. She probably does a lot of her own stunts. If not, she pulls it off when you do see her and see her face on camera, but I don't know, she's very convincing. It didn't feel like a Mary Sue story, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that stood out to me as well. I mean, like her physicality, like
Mhm,
she is in shape, man. Like she's almost like a prettier version of like Michelle Rodriguez, a better
mhm,
because she kind
mhm.
of has that feel, but I feel like she's a stronger actress and I mean, she is in shape, man.
Yeah,
That stuck out to me. And that's probably
and
what attracted Zack Snyder because he, like in 300, he goes for like that
right.
almost unrealistic body image. So,
Yeah, she just her movements, just the way she
mhm.
looked. I mean, because look, there's a lot of times women actresses, actors, whatever, when they play these roles that, it's not like Charlize Theron is one that she is not convincing to me as somebody who's gonna beat anybody's ass, okay? But this
Right.
chick looks like, okay, like, I don't wanna fight this girl, you know what I'm saying? Because she
Yeah.
probably kicked my butt. So, some girls or women are better able to pull it off and make it believable, and she's really good. She's really I enjoy watching her stuff.
I agree. She was definitely believable in that respect, which is good because the whole movie hinges on her. You
Mhm,
know, if she doesn't work, the movie falls apart.
right. And so the movie's about her, Sophia Boutella plays a girl named Cora, and she was um, a an orphan that was raised by basically kinda like what would be
Farmers.
a well, no, she was raised by the
Oh,
emperor or kinda like what's the equivalent of the emperor in Star Wars,
right,
and she joined the empire. I think they call them the Imperia. What do they call them? They call 'em something like that, the Imperium, but they are basically like the empire or whatever, and
yeah,
so the very people that killed her real family raised her, and she becomes part of them, right? She
right.
becomes a soldier, and that's how she got her training and all of this stuff. And then at some point, she realizes she doesn't want to be a part of that anymore, and escapes and ends up on this planet where she becomes a farmer with this group of people in this what do you call it? A little town, little village.
Right. That's what I meant by farmer because all the stuff you're saying, you don't learn that till like midway
Right,
through the
right.
movie.
Mhm.
But the
Yeah,
way
we're
it's
not
start,
doing a deep dive. We're not gonna go scene by scene, but,
yeah.
um, that's kinda where her character is, and one of the biggest gripes of this movie from a lot of people is the lack of character development on everybody else. You get plenty of character development on her, you
Mhm.
just don't really get much on everybody else, and that is an issue, I think, you know?
Yeah, I can see that as well because, I mean, you got you know the Demon Hinsu, like the African American guy from
Right?
Gladiator. You have the muscular guy that fights the big bird creature. Um, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 of them, and I would say the argument is like they're gonna have development in part two, but
Right,
they kind of set it up for that. But yeah,
and that's kinda where I am. I think that the movie, it was already 2 hours and 15 minutes, and unless they go and make this another 3.5 hour movie, they had to
hmm,
make some choices, and he chose to slow the movie down in slow motion for 50% of it, and he coulda had more runtime. He coulda had that time could have been filled with a little more character development, probably about 15 minutes more, but instead, we
yeah.
got to watch everything be done in slow motion.
Even the seeds when she throws the seeds.
Everything. I mean, just everything was in slow motion, so, yeah, it's like, "Geez, dude," like, I get it, and there's it's not that I hate slow motion,
Mhm.
but it's like he lost his mind in this one, man. Like, "Dude, what are you doing?
He's a kid
Why
having
is
fun.
every scene in slow motion?" I don't know. It's very d it at first, I didn't bo it didn't bother me, but after a while, I guess about an hour, hour and a half, I'm like, "Oh my goodness. We're still doing this?" You know?
Yeah,
Uh,
but, it, you know, I couldn't help but when you said about her being on the farm, like, she's on the farm, she's looking out, instead of the twin suns, it's the other planet. Like, there's a
mhm.
lot of she's kind of like the Luke Skywalker, of this, Destined for More has a background like you were mentioning, um, and overall, like, how did you feel about the pace of it?
It didn't really bother me too much. I know a lot of people don't like producer Nick didn't like how it slowed down.
Uh-huh.
Um, Kinda after the first 30, 40 minutes, he's like, "It just got so boring," and then they started hopping from planet to planet, and I don't know, it didn't bother me too much as far as that goes. Um, I liked you did get a little bit of background. They just would kinda say, "Oh, he is General Titus, and he did this." And ever since then, he's just been fighting as a gladiator. So you don't get to see anything, and you don't get,
Right.
that's the only thing you know about his character. And then they pretty quickly convince him to follow without, there's not much convincing going on.
I thought
So
about
there's
that
a
too, like,
problem with that.
she's able
Um,
to go jump, jump, jump pretty quick.
yeah,
Um,
so I think it was a
yeah.
timing issue. I'm sure there was a little more that they wanted to do,
Right.
but eh, but also at some point, maybe he should have thought, okay, maybe I don't need this many characters if it's that much of a problem. I mean, if you think about Star Wars, you had Ben Kenobi, you had Luke, Han, Chewie, and Leia. That's all you had
Uh-huh.
as far as like the main ones.
Right.
So they kind of do that, right? They kind of pick
Uh-huh.
people up as they go. So you got character development in there. There was time. Maybe he just had too many characters he was trying to introduce. Maybe he should have held off on a couple of the others until the next episode. Maybe only get two or three of them and wait for, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been done that way and
S-
and
Some of
spread
that
it out.
some of that could have been helped by just because they're jumping from planet to planet. So they could have given us a couple of scenes with downtime on the ship when they're getting to learn about each other and like get along or not get along. That would have helped, I think,
Yeah.
because when they're jumping, you don't see them ever hanging out on the ship, like talking or getting to know one another, or,
But
that would
that's
have
the
helped a little
thing.
bit.
There wasn't time. That would have made the movie too long. If you want to try to keep it in 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes,
Yeah.
they would have had to make different decisions. And I think maybe saving one or two of those characters for the next movie,
Right.
because in all honesty, they didn't do a whole lot. So
It really, they just introduced them, like you were
right.
saying.
So
Yeah.
why do all of that? How about maybe take a little more time with, less characters and just
Hmm.
introduce, some later on. So I don't know.
Right.
It was an interesting decision, and it seems like it hurt because that's some of the biggest problems from everybody, not just people in our group with the Grove members. I'm
Uh-huh.
talking like I've seen other people review it. I've read articles, and everybody says the same thing. You don't get to know anybody. You don't get to know the characters except for her.
Yeah.
And it was too fast.
It kind of, in that respect, because of that, it kind of made it feel more just like a show that was on TV, and like
Uh-huh.
next week we'll learn who these are. Like it made it feel a little more TV showy and not as much movie when they do that. Um, but I loved the stuff on the farm planet. Like
Yeah, but they took
when
they had time to do it. They took their time to do it.
yeah.
And I know, other than her, you're not gonna go into that much character development, so I get it.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, I just think he tried to introduce too many in this movie. I think if he would've just spread it out and maybe waited for 1 or 2 characters on the next one, it would've been much better.
Yeah, I could see it. It would also make it more organic. Like you're not going to get all these guys in like a week. It's going to
Right.
take. Yeah,
It
I
was
could see
very
that.
f and it didn't take much convincing, so it was like, I mean, I see it. Um, it's definitely an issue, but I guess that's what makes what makes the good separates the good from the great. And because he made those decisions, this movie's not going to be great. He took some important things out, like character development, and I don't know. I think it's going to suffer because of that. We'll definitely get more in the second one, especially if this is going to be the main group of characters, and they're
Uh
not going
huh.
to add more. More than likely, you'll hear a lot more of each one of them's background. But man, I think he may have lost quite a few people in this one already.
Do you think in like after the second one comes out, and if the second one gives you what you were missing here, when you go back to this one, it won't. It'll kind of fix it a little bit. It'll help.
It may,
Yeah,
but I mean, the
because I
second
think
one's
that could.
it's gonna have to be a good movie.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be good. So if he does a little bit of character development, you learn more about these characters, but the movie sucks, then it's not gonna do any good. So he's
Right.
gonna have to do what he didn't do in the first one and let
Right.
you get to know these people a little bit better and make the movie make it's got to be good.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that.
Well,
For
kind of leaning more towards the positives right now. Like we were saying about Sophia, like she's a great lead. The
hmm
villain is great. The guy that plays Admiral Atticus, he's a great villain. Like
he really
he,
is.
and when he comes on that farm planet, it reminded me a lot of Inglorious Bastards. Like,
That's exactly what I thought about it. I mean, everybody, of course, it's obvious that they were going for the Nazi thing, but he
mhm,
was acting very much like the Jew hunter. very
Yeah,
much.
I was getting it was like a sci-fi version of that. I was getting that, and then it also kind of reminded me of Rogue One because Rogue One kind of did that too. So there was similarities there as well. Um, but all the stuff on the farm when they took out the father, they call him,
Mhm.
that's where I was like, okay, it's getting me now. I'm in. Um, and the robot, I love the robot. There's got to be more with that
Oh,
robot later.
there's no doubt. I mean, he wouldn't
Yeah.
have showed him at the end of the movie like that
Hmm.
if the robot was gonna decide to do
Yeah.
some damage. And that was voiced by Anthony Hopkins. That's who I thought it was when I was watching it.
Oh, okay.
I
I
was
didn't
like, "Man,
realize
that
that.
sounds like Anthony Hopkins." I have to check that, and it was. Yeah.
That's good. That robot was great, and the CGI on him was
Very
great.
good. Very
Yeah.
good. I don't
Yeah.
know if they did a motion capture thing with that or if that was just pure CGI, but either way, it was done really well.
Yeah, I don't know. But it looked convincing. And the whole thing with the girl um, was great too when those military guys that are left on the
Yeah.
planet are going to whatever with her. And that first fight when they all kind of stop those military men that are left, that was all great.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as the action and then the reason they were getting involved, like, it all made sense to me. I liked that a lot. Like I said, my favorite stuff is the stuff on the farm planet.
And that's what everybody
Um,
says. Those first 30 or 40 minutes, it's like,
mhm.
"Holy crap, this is really good."
Yeah, that was good.
And I knew all of that going in, so I was expecting to really enjoy the beginning of the movie, but I was fully expecting it to just go completely off the rails. And I
Yeah.
don't think it did that. I just think it suffered from the things that I said earlier.
Yeah, and one of the negatives, it's just when it jumps, it's like it's it's weird because it's like so many genres. Like when they go visit Diamond Hinsu on the Gladiator planet, it's literally like they're taking him from the movie Gladiator. He's
Mhm.
even in that. So
Right.
it's weird. That part of it's
I'm sure that was, done on purpose. I mean, I
yeah,
don't think
but
that was a mistake.
that's funny, but it's literally like it's like they just grab, when they jump to these different planets, it's like a different movie on each planet, which is cool thinking about it. But in the moment, I'm like, man, this is just all over the place.
Mhm.
He's definitely
And I
Zack Snyder
mean,
having
does
fun.
that guy age? I mean,
Oh, he looks the same as he did in Gladiator.
and that movie's over
2000.
what, 20 years old, 23 years old?
I
I
think it was
mean,
2000. Yeah.
and he's still an animal. I mean, golly, look
Yeah.
how big he is.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of where they probably should have waited for his character in the next movie.
Yeah.
Um, and the prince, the guy with the bird thing, they probably could have waited for him in the second movie. If they would have taken
Yeah.
those 2 and waited and just gone with the, um so you had the farmer, the pilot, who he's really the only character I didn't like. I didn't like the pilot guy. Um, I found
Which
his
one are you?
the Irish or
Oh,
whatever, Scottish, whatever that
Han.
guy is.
He was kind of the Han Solo
Yeah,
at
but
the.
not,
Yeah.
um, he bothered me. I didn't like him at all, like,
What
at
about his
all.
shift when you find out he's dirty?
I mean, I didn't see that coming,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, I'm usually pretty good at picking up on things, but for some reason, I didn't see that coming. Um, so, I mean, that was a good twist
Yeah.
for me because I didn't see it coming. Maybe I'm just an idiot. Maybe you probably saw it coming a mile away. I didn't see it. Um, and now that it's over, it makes sense because it was really, really easy for them to convince him to go and to, you know what I'm
That's
saying? But I didn't, it, I just, I guess maybe I thought it was bad writing at the time. Like, oh, yeah, that was
yeah.
pretty easy. But now it makes sense. The guy was a scoundrel and he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah,
So,
he was in Mos Eisley Cantina.
right. But I didn't like the character. Like, I didn't like him.
Yeah.
I didn't. So, and it's not, I didn't like him. Like, he was so good that I didn't like him. I didn't like the actor playing the part for some, like it seemed out of place. He's the only person that seemed out of place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like he seemed
Mhm.
like he was making a regular Hollywood movie and not a sci-fi movie. It didn't feel, it felt like he was, what is he from? Sons of Anarchy or something? You know,
Yeah, he's in. Yeah,
it was like watching, oh, look, it's the guy from Sons of Anarchy, you know? It was
yeah.
just weird to me, his character. It was very strange.
I can kind of see, but I was gonna say when he jumps on too quick in the bar, it's like all of a sudden he's there to help her and he wants to join. Like looking when you go back and watch it, that'll be kind of,
Yeah,
you
it'll make
know,
a little more sense. Like,
yeah,
when everything went down, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm an
yeah.
idiot. I didn't see it."
But that scene was intense when the farmer that they keep calling like the coward, the other guy,
Mhm, mhm.
Gunner, he when he has to make that decision, like, does he take
He
the easy
impressed
way?
me. He
That was
impressed me.
cool. That was
Yeah.
cool.
I
Because I
wasn't
was
waiting
like,
for that.
and I was like, how are they going to get out of this? They're all in those exoskeleton spider things. You know, they're all
Mhm.
stuck. I was like, what are they going to do? That was cool.
And you know what's funny? I don't know if this is where he got that, but all I thought about was Beetlejuice with those things that grabbed him. It
Yeah,
was like the sculpture when it grabbed, Lydia's mom or stepmom,
that's
what's her name? Catherine O'Hara.
uh huh.
That's all I could think of every time they were in one of those, whatever
That's
they're
cool.
called. I don't know, whatever the bounty hunters had. I was like, "Oh."
Right.
So I don't know. I'm thinking he may have got that from Beetlejuice.
I mean, he might have. I mean, he's pulling from everything. You
Mhm.
know, there's a lot of different stuff in there. But oh, and Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in
Yeah.
Justice League, he's
Mhm.
in this, and I didn't recognize him until I looked at the cast list. He's the one that has like the
Blood
black,
Axe.
yeah.
Blood Axe,
So
right, is his name? I think it's Blood Axe.
yes, Blood Axe. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, so that I mean, he'll definitely get because he's barely in this. He'll get way more to do in the next one. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Um, and what did you think of oh, the Asian lady with the lightsabers? I mean, she
Mhm.
literally has lightsabers,
Pretty much.
except they're a little more like
It's like
blades.
swords that can become lightsabers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when she fights the spider lady,
Oh,
like
this I think the spider was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
yeah, that CG was really well done.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because there's a couple of shots that aren't as good, but on like the robot, on this, on those, they're really well done on those. I don't know. Maybe it was a budget thing. Because then
No,
there's
I
some
yeah.
scenes that look a little, like on The Mandalorian, how they film it on, what is it called? It's like a certain stage that the stuff moves around them. There was some spots where it kind of looked like that, where it looked
Mm.
real blue screen, but then there's some that look really good. So,
Yeah, the spider
um,
scene was fun, and, I'm not crazy about spiders. I used to be really, really scared of them when I was younger. Now I'm not. I mean, I don't want the damn things on me, but I don't have, like, this huge fear of them like I used to.
yeah.
So I like seeing them on screen like that, because spiders are
Hmm.
scary. I mean, especially a spider that talks to you. So, yeah, she was cool.
Yeah, that was good. I thought that was interesting. And that's played by Jenna Malone. That's another one. When I
Yeah, I
saw
saw
her,
her. I've never seen her in anything.
she's in the Hunger Games, and she's in
Okay.
those movies. So that's where I knew her from. And I recognize, I was like, where is she from? And then I looked it up that she's from that. So that was another good character. And this Admiral Atticus, when he gets his comeuppance finally at the end, she fights him. Um, what did you think about his downfall and where he ends up? Because that's it. What do you think
Okay.
about that?
So, first of all, before we go into that, even though all of these action scenes have a lot of slow motion, they're
Uh
good
huh.
fight scenes. They are
Right.
good action scenes. So I think if he would have toned down the slow motion and we would have got to see a lot of them in normal time, I would have enjoyed them a lot more. That being said, when she fights him at the end, it's a good fight scene.
Uh huh.
Um, they're both badass. They both get their licks on each other. So I really enjoyed that. Um, I like how she defeated him, all of that stuff. And I remember thinking earlier in the movie, you see him with these tentacle things all on his body, and he's like enjoying it, and these holes. I'm like, what the hell is that? So there's no explanation. You just see these things, and he's talking to it like it's a friend. I'm like, is this some kind of weird sex thing? Like I didn't know what I was watching.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and so at
Zack
the
Snyder
end,
having fun.
oh man. So at the end, after he's dead, um, and don't worry, I'm gonna put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this. So, but at the end, when he's dead and they hook him, okay, so he's half cyborg or something,
I was
or
thinking, "Oh, he's Anakin."
so yeah. At first, I was like, are they gonna Darth Vader this
Yeah,
guy?
that's what I thought,
But
yeah.
it seems like it may have already been done. Is the point?
Uh-huh.
Like they hooked him up to all of this stuff, and it bring now here's where it gets confusing. The whole movie, I didn't get confused until all of this stuff. Where the hell did he go? You know what I'm saying? Like, what
Yeah.
is that like a different dimension? Like, I don't understand.
Well, it
What
is
the hell
weird.
was that? So is and then it's the emperor type guy who they send him to, and that's the one who raised Korra, right?
Mhm.
Who is he? I mean, is he like a Sith Lord? Does he have supernatural? I mean, they didn't really explain anything. I guess you're supposed to kind of get that idea, but
Yeah.
there was no mention of like the Force, anything like that. And all of a sudden, you got supernatural shit going on. I'm like, what?
Right.
What's happening?
It's definitely supernatural. And by the way, the effects on when they're plugging them up and the veins and the wire, all that was really well done.
Yeah, yeah, it looks good.
I mean, it looks like a back to tank, like
Hmm.
it's cool. But my take is because they mention like astral, like another plane projection, things like that. So what I'm getting at is they're serving the king still, but he's in another world. It's like almost like gods that are above them that they're serving, and they have some way to communicate or connect to them because it's some kind of unworldly realm that he's in, you know,
That's
that he
very
gets summoned
strange.
to. Yeah, it's weird, but that's what I'm taking that it they have some kind of connection to another world, and they're taking orders from them. And this guy, this admiral, he's really just a puppet. You know,
Hmm.
he's a total ruthless bad guy, fill in the blank, but he's taking orders from somebody else. So at the end of the day, he's being used as well by that
Oh, so
guy.
so you don't think that the guy that raised her, he's the admiral. You don't think that he's in charge? You think there's somebody above him?
No, no, I'm saying Atticus is serving him still.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but they're definitely taking orders from above.
And he
And
basically took over and made himself admiral after the king was murdered, right?
yeah,
Okay. So he's running things since the king was murdered. So I don't know. There's definitely some kind of force thing going
totally.
on, but they didn't really get into it. So maybe that's what the second one's going to be about. I don't know. It was an interesting choice to not show any of that until the very end.
Yeah, you're right. I can see how that would throw some people off, but that was one of the scenes, like, I know totally different than the farming planet, but that was one of the ones where I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, like this is interesting. I wasn't expecting that, you know? Um, and being on Netflix, being on your TV, there wasn't as much anticipation for me as it would be if it was at the movie theater and you had to go there, you know? So I think that helped in its benefit. You know what I mean? Like I'm surprised a few times. There's some cool action scenes. I liked it.
Well, it worked in my favor because I was expecting trash. Okay. So I was pleasantly surprised. When you go in with low expectations,
Yeah.
you're not disappointed if it's okay. And that's kind of how I went into this because producer Nick thought it was not good. Like, I think his rating is a 5. I'm gonna get into my rating, but his rating is a 5 out of 10. It's just like just a run of the mill average movie to him that he's probably never gonna watch again. And that's kind of where I thought I was gonna be
Uh-huh.
watching this because Nick and I, even though we don't agree on everything, we have very similar taste, and we're both very have the same feelings as far as where Star Wars is now compared to where it was, and
Right.
so we're kind of, and I mean, we've been best friends since we were 5, so we think a lot alike.
That's
But
cool.
every now and then, we're on different pages, and it was funny because I texted him, "Hey, I'm starting it," or whatever, and she just whipped all those dudes' butts who at the beginning, and he's like, "Yeah, now the cool parts are over." So I was expecting the movie to just suck after that. And when I didn't text him back until the very end, he said the whole time he was thinking, "This fool must like the movie because he's not texting me crapping all over it." Because that's normally what I do. If something sucks, I'm like, "Oh my god, this is terrible." This, and I didn't do that, so he was like, "I'll be." So anyway,
That's funny.
it just be like
Um,
that sometimes.
mhm.
But overall, what you give this out of 10?
1 out of 10, I'm going 7.
Okay.
I'm going 7. It was slightly above average. It wasn't like, "Oh my gosh," like 10 out of 10,
Mhm.
but I'd say it's slightly above average. I'm going 7. I feel good with that.
Yeah. I'm at about 6.5.
Okay.
If 5 is average, 6 is above average.
Mhm.
Usually when you start getting to 7 and 8, that's like good, and it's in between average and good for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think some people are gonna really, really like it, and then other people are gonna be like, "That's not very good." So I couldn't quite go to 7, but I thought 6 was too low. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
split the difference and just go 6.5, you know?
Well, we're only half a point difference, and,
Yeah.
so that's yeah, and it's cool, you like it more than I thought you would,
Oh, there's no
based on
doubt, yeah.
yeah. So it was a fun movie. It was fun.
My microphone was shaking. I keep shaking the table.
Are you being summoned up like he did? Like Atticus?
No, 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 no. But yeah, that was so weird, man. That's so strange. Especially like I said, early in the movie, he's just laying there naked in these things. I'm like, "What?
Y Yeah,
What's
that
going
was
on?"
weird. Dude,
It
it's
was
like
so strange.
Zack Snyder took his 10 favorite movies and just put them in a blender.
Yeah, it said, "Look, I'm just gonna do this," you know?
Yeah, so you gotta appreciate it for that, he's got a style.
Yeah. And the first video I ever did for this channel was Army of the Dead. And I gave it a higher mark. And now that I go back and look at it, no, that movie was not a 7. I gave it a 7. It was not a 7. That was probably a 6.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so, just something I noticed before we pull, out of this is, the after after the main action scene at the end, when they defeat Atticus, did you remember that scene? There's like all 5 or 6 of them, and they're standing on the edge of that cliff, and
yeah,
there's that real epic. That is exactly from Justice League. Like at the end of Justice League, they're all standing up there. It pans back, and the music even sounded the same. I don't know. And as a fan of Justice League, I kind of appreciated that. I was like, oh, okay,
it reminded me
def
of 300 as well. I mean, he definitely has a style.
yeah,
Like whenever Blood Axe jumps onto when he does the whole jumping with the
yeah.
spear. It wasn't a spear, it was a piece of metal, but it looked like the spear like in 300. So
That's
yeah,
definitely
he
like a 300 scene. Yeah,
mhm.
that was
So
cool.
so he borrowed from himself as well.
Yeah, totally. Um, but no, I'm glad I checked it out. April part 2 comes out. Um,
Okay. Oh, is that soon?
yeah, it comes out in April. So yeah, it's not. Well, let me check now that I said that because I saw it. It said April when I went to Netflix. Um,
And then they're talking about the director's cut. And maybe the director's cut, he said it's not gonna be longer. He said it's different. So
yeah,
maybe there
April
are
19th.
April. So maybe there in the director's cut, if it ever happens,
Uh huh.
maybe there were some different things that he would have edited and not edited or whatever. Because he said that it's not a longer movie, it's just different. So I don't know. But
Well,
I
he's
get tired of hearing the excuse, with like all directors have to fight with studios, all directors have to meet deadlines and
right.
have to deal with editing and all of that stuff. But what you don't do is complain about it while the movie just released and then say,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's not what I wanted." Well, okay, so every movie, it's never the movie that Zack Snyder wanted. Like, stop it. Okay? Take some ownership that maybe your movies aren't as awesome as you think they are and trying to get a mulligan 2 days after it comes out, you know? So it kinda bothers me a little bit with that, you know?
But you know what's funny is being Snyder, I almost expected a director's cut. I mean, because he has multiple cuts of Watchmen, multiple cuts of obviously Justice League is like the
Mhm.
most famous one.
And there's
You know,
nothing
he
wrong with
yeah.
director's cuts. I like I mean, they
You're
can
talking
make a
more of his
movie.
approach, the way
His
he brought it
approach
up.
is basically, "Oh, as soon as there's bad press, oh, but that's not my movie." And that's just like, "No, no, 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 that's not how it works. That's not how it works." I mean, look at Blade Runner, you know, the theatrical cut, it's been cut like 5 times or
Yeah,
whatever,
there's a lot in that, yeah.
and the final cut really is the best one, okay? But we're talking 20 years down the line, you know, they cut it differently and whatnot, and got rid of the monologue and all that, or the voiceover of Harrison Ford. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking the movie just released a week ago, and he's already, oh, well, that's not my movie. Come on, man. It's getting to a point now. It's just, hey, that's his go-to. If I get anything negative from my movies, I'm just gonna say that that's not how I wanted it. 'Cause
Yep.
normally most director's cuts are like, if it's a PG-13 movie, they put stuff back
Oh,
in that was edited out because it was too violent or whatever, and maybe a few scenes here or there. It's like 2 or 3 minutes longer or
uh-huh.
whatever. Um, but this guy, I mean, he just wants to, like, completely re-edit his movies if it gets any bad flack, you know? Whatever.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, you know, some people have said, like, this is kind of like an R-rated Star Wars. I mean, there was some, like but it wasn't that
I don't think
bad,
it and I don't think it
like,
needs to
far
be. I
no, I don't
think
think it needs to be either.
if they edited stuff out to make it PG-13 because it would have been rated R, I'm okay with them not putting that back in. Like, it didn't need to
Yeah.
be any more gory or violent than it was. I mean, it was plenty violent enough. I mean,
Yeah.
the dude beat people to death with a stick. I mean, we don't need to see the skulls smashing,
Oh,
you
when he
know?
hits that, like, alien priest, I was like,
Yeah, that
"Gosh,
was
that
really
was
good. Yeah.
cold."
Yeah.
Yeah. That was another scene I was like, "This dude is just ruthless,
And I
man."
guess they showed that one because it wasn't a human, so it
Yeah.
because they didn't show the mayor, they didn't actually show it hitting
Yeah,
the
you're right,
mayor.
you just hear it.
You just hear it because he was a human, it probably, you know, it would have made it rated R or whatever.
Yeah,
But I don't need to see that, like, it's not necessary. If you wanna keep it PG-13 so more people can watch it, I think it's fine.
right. No, I agree. I don't think it needed to be updated anymore. I mean, it was already kind of like on the cusp of maybe being a little
Mhm.
bit higher of a rating, so I thought it was fine where it's at.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Alright, well, I think that'll about wrap it up. Yeah, we enjoyed it. It's 6.5, 7-ish type movie, and
Mhm.
it's not gonna blow anybody away, I don't think, but it also wasn't a complete waste of time.
Right. Worth checking out.
Yeah, and I'll watch the next one.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where it goes,
Yeah,
you
me
know.
too. I'm
Yeah.
interested, like, I'm kinda intrigued.
And you have to appreciate the fact that he's creating like this whole mythology.
It's
You
not
know, it's
easy.
not just yeah, it's not
Star
just a
Wars has been doing it for almost 50 years now.
uh-huh.
This is brand new, and to try to come up with something in that type of realm, that's not easy, you
It's
know?
harder to do for sure. Because no matter what you do, you're going to be borrowing from something.
Well, yeah, and it's hard to do without completely copying
Mhm.
what's been done. So he just
Right.
needs to be careful that he doesn't, you know, go too close with it, you
Right.
know? So anyway, all right, well, I guess that'll wrap it up. Dominic, thanks for joining me,
Always a pleasure.
and we'll do something again soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Don't forget, like, subscribe, tell your friends, and check us out on the next one. Adios.